Yo, this is AB. No, it's not AB again, it's BL again. Sorry, I've just been on an AB catch-up for a number of days. So, welcome to my latest fighter video. Now, this fighter, opens the featherweight playlist, and in the 1890-1910 period, there's no better fighter to open that playlist than the great little Hebrew himself, Abe Attell. One of the all-time great featherweight champions in my book. So we will go through the career of Abe Attell, starting with his major opponents. Now, Abe Attell fought the great George Dixon, on 3 occasions, suffering no losses, scoring 1 win and fighting to 2 draws. He also fought another excellent fighter from the time, former bantamweight Harry Forbes, on 6 occasions, scoring 3 wins, 1 loss and 2 draws. And Abe Attell also fought battling Nelson twice without suffering defeat, scoring 1 win and 1 draw. Next up is former bantamweight champion Jimmy Walsh. Abe Attell fought him on 5 occasions, scoring 4 wins, no loss and 1 draw. And he also 4 times defeated former bantamweight champion Frankie Neal from their 4-fight series. Now, he did lose to the Welsh wizard Freddie Welsh in their 1 fight they had, and he also fought a draw to former lightweight champion and now Hall of Famer, of course, Ad Wolgast, before also fighting twice the next great featherweight champion following on from Abe Attell, Johnny Kilbane. Abe Attell scored 1 win and suffered 1 defeat. He then also lost to Matt Wells before also scoring a win over Leo Johnson. Next up is Frankie Conley. Abe Attell fought Conley on 1 occasion, fighting to a draw. And then he had another large series, this time a 5-fight series with UK great fighter Owen Moran. Now, Abe Attell scored 2 wins, suffered no defeats and fought 3 draws from that 5-fight series. And it's interesting how we'll have fight series with George Dixon battling Nelson, Owen Moran. Many of the top fighters he fought, he actually didn't lose to. In 9 fights against Jimmy Walsh and Frankie Neal, he had no defeats. Harry Forbes, he only lost 1 out of 6. So he's got an excellent win rate against many of the best fighters he fought. Next up is Jim Driscoll. He fought Jim Driscoll on 1 occasion, suffering a defeat, and he also scored a win over knockout puncher but more vulnerable fighter George K.O. Cheney. Next up is another murderous puncher, Aurelio Herrera. Abe Attell fought him on 2 occasions, scoring 2 wins. So he's only lost to 5 opponents on that list, and considering many of them are champions, Hall of Famers, and some of them are some of the best fighters in their divisions from that time, he has an excellent winning record in there against them. So on to the next slide, Abe Attell fought Benny Younger in 1 fight, suffering a defeat. He then scored 1 win and 1 draw from 2 fights against Eddie Hanlon. And fighting Johnny Reagan, Abe Attell fought him on 2 occasions, scoring 2 wins. Next up is contender Kid Herman. Abe Attell fought him twice, scoring 1 win and 1 draw. And he 4 times fought another difficult opponent from the time, Young Earn. He fought him 4 times, scoring 2 wins, suffering 1 loss and fighting to 1 draw. He also fought and lost to Jack McClelland, and then fought a trilogy of fights against Tommy Sullivan. Abe Attell split the trilogy, 1 win, 1 loss and 1 draw. Next up is Tommy Feltz. Abe Attell fought Feltz on 2 occasions, scoring 2 wins, and then he also had a 5-fight series with Harlem Tommy Murphy, scoring 2 wins, suffering 2 defeats and fighting to 1 draw. The thing about fighters like Abe Attell and Greb and many others to come, and many to come in this period, is the resumes are so deep, because many of these guys like Young Earn, Eddie Hanlon, Benny Younger, etc., you may not be as familiar with them, but many of them were really tough fighters and very capable fighters of the time. So Kid Goodman is next. Abe Attell fought him to a draw. He then scored 1 win in 1 fight he had with Chester Goodwin, and also fought to a draw against Spike Robson. Next up is Tommy O'Toole. Attell fought him on 2 occasions, scoring 1 win and 1 loss, and he 6 times fought Eddie Kelly, scoring wins in all 6 fights. Next up is Matty Baldwin. Abe Attell also defeated him. So Abe Attell is having a lot of fights, over the first 2 slides. He has had a lot of fights and scored lots of wins over good opponents. Big shout out to Martin Dunstan in the chat. Hope you're well, Martin. Good to see you, buddy, as always. So on to the final slide of his major opponents. Abe Attell fought Young Pearce on 2 occasions, scoring 2 wins. He fought Patsy Cline 4 times, scoring 4 wins. And then he also twice fought another great UK fighter who goes very underrated. That is Charlie White, the tough lightweight contender now. Abe Attell fought Charlie White on 2 occasions, beating him both times. He then did fight to a draw, to Jack White, before then gaining singular wins over Philadelphia Pal Moore, Frankie Burns, who could be a handful, and young Johnny Cohen. He then suffered defeats in the final 2 fights listed on his major opponents. The first was against Knockout Brown, and the second was against Willie Beecher. So there is 84 fights highlighted there, okay? From those 84 fights, Abe Attell scored 51 wins with 14 losses and 19 draws. So, large career, stacked career, not only the Hall of Famers, champions, top contenders, many tough journeymen, etc., etc. Yeah, really deep resume Abe Attell had. So on to his stats. Abe Attell scored 38 knockouts in his career, 12 of them in 3 rounds or less, and 0 in the first round. He scored 5 KOs against champions, 0 KOs against Hall of Famers, and 2 KOs against pound-for-pound fighters. As a pre-rating era, Abe Attell scored 0 KOs against rated opponents. But in rounds boxed, he fought well over 1,000 career rounds with a total of 1,414. 339 of those were title fight rounds. Abe Attell is in that small club of just over a dozen fighters who've actually fought more than 300 title fight rounds in their career. He's up there with Hopkins and Emil Griffith and Jack Brayton and Langford and a number of others in that exclusive little club. So rounds against champions, Abe Attell fought 313. He fought 227 rounds against Hall of Famers and 314 rounds against pound-for-pound fighters. Now, as a solid pre-rating era fighter, Abe Attell fought no rounds against top 10 fighters, top 3 fighters or ring champions. So on to our next slide, okay, we go onto the champions, okay. Abe Attell had 27 fights against champions, and we have to remember, you know, there wasn't 4 titles per division at this time. There wasn't even the NBA and the NSAC. There wasn't even the established linear line of the flyweight division at this point. There was no super featherweight division or super bantamweight division. So that is a lot of fights against champions at 27. Abe Attell has a very excellent winning record of 15 wins with only 4 defeats from those 27 fights against champions. He also fought 8 draws. And Abe Attell defeated 7 individual champions, and not a bad bunch of names they are. George Dixon, Harry Forbes, Battling Nelson, Jimmy Walsh, Frankie Neal, Johnny Kilbane and Leo Johnson. And he scored knockouts or stoppages over 4 of those 7 champions, stopping Harry Forbes, Jimmy Walsh, Frankie Neal and Leo Johnson. So on to the Hall of Fame category. Abe Attell had 17 fights against Hall of Famers, only losing 3 of them, also scoring 7 wins and 7 draws from those 17 fights, and he defeated 5 individual Hall of Famers. They were George Dixon, Battling Nelson, Owen Moran, Johnny Kilbane and George K.O. Cheney. Abe Attell scored 0 knockouts over Hall of Famers individually. And on to the pound-for-pound category. Abe Attell had 26 fights against pound-for-pounders, beating 6 pound-for-pounders individually. They were George Dixon, Harry Forbes, Battling Nelson, Jimmy Walsh, Owen Moran and Johnny Kilbane. He scored knockout or stoppage over one of those 6 pound-for-pound fighters. That was Harry Forbes. So, there we are with the Champions Hall of Famers and pound-for-pounders, okay. When we go on to the rated opponent slide, we can see Abe Attell fought no fights against rated opponents, obviously being pre-rating era, so he has 0s against top 10 fighters, top 3 fighters or ring champions, and he defeated 0 individual rated fighters and scored knockouts over 0 individual rated fighters. Wait till Archie Moore's video. His knockout record's incredible, even against rated opponents, champions, Hall of Famers. So anyway, on to, okay, our next slide, the world title fight slide. Now, Abe Attell had 27 world title fights. He was world champion from 1903 to 1912. He was then replaced by another champion, Johnny Kilbane, who was champion for even longer. And you know, to put it in perspective, between Abe Attell and then his successor Johnny Kilbane, those two combined were world featherweight champion for over 20 years between them. Incredible, really, when you think about it. So from those 27 title fights, the little Hebrew scored 22 wins with only 2 losses and 3 draws. Attell made 23 title defences, and he also scored 12 title fight knockouts. Now, he scored no wins against top 10 fighters, top 3 fighters or ring champions. He did score 6 wins against champions in title fights, no wins against Hall of Famers, and 4 wins against pound for pound fighters in title fights. So, massive world title fight record, lots of defences, long lineal reign, one of the longest reigning lineal featherweight champions of all time. So, on to titles. When Attell, of course, captured the world featherweight title, he's also now regarded as lineal featherweight champion, and he holds the distinction of being undisputed featherweight champion of the world. Like I said, when Attell was fighting, there wasn't even the NSAC and the NBA at that point as individual bodies, so he was fighting for the full world title. So there's my latest video. Attell kicks open my featherweight playlist. I will, of course, soon, over the next few weeks, open the bantamweight and flyweight playlist. And in the meantime, while I get my next top 1,000 videos ready, add more fighters across the various divisions. So there's my latest video. I'll say a big shout out to Martin Dunstan in chat. Always a pleasure, Martin. And there's my latest video, the great Attell himself. I am the boxing librarian, and I'm out for now.